Hi, my name is Mark Lazars. We do a lot of garment decoration, and one of the things that we found out early on in the game was that if you are consistent with your design placement, you get super professional results. The easiest way we have found is to use a laser alignment system. I came up with a 3D printed design that rivals the best of the commercially available ones. In fact, I think it's even a little bit more versatile without the extremely high cost associated with these devices. So if you order one from my website, markswoodchips.com, you'll get a box with a couple of items in it. This is the tower and the battery holder, and this is the laser module with 4 lasers on it connected by a series of wires to the battery pack. The battery pack does not come with batteries, so you'll have to provide 3 AA batteries in order for this thing to work. There is an option to order a transformer that you plug into the wall, and that way you don't need to change batteries ever, because you'll just plug it in and never have to worry about any batteries running out, although these will last an extremely long time. In order to mount the battery pack to the tower, what you do is just notice that there's a switch on one side of the battery pack. You can just slide that in the holder until it stops with the switch exposed, and you're good to go. Once the lasers are mounted into this tower, then it's a little bit easier just to pry back one of the ears and take the battery pack out this way in case you need to put batteries in it. Putting batteries in this is really quite easy. You just open this up and insert your batteries like so. After the batteries are inserted, you simply replace the cover, snap it into position, and mount the battery pack into the tower, making sure that the switch is pointing out to the back side of the tower. The lasers themselves are on an aluminum rod, and they can be moved by loosening the clamp rod. They can be tilted to any position and slid along this rod anywhere along this 7-inch length. So you could put 1 laser here, for instance, and 3 lasers here, and have the tower in between, or however you want to align this thing based upon what your needs are. So just to show you kind of how this thing actually mounts, we'll just put them all on one end here, and with the lasers pointing up, where the battery pack is down there, lasers are pointing up. You can slide the rod into the tower and tighten it up, and that's how it will sit. Now, like I said, you could take this laser off and move it around to the other side if you loosen the others and slide that rod, so you can get quite a bit of distance between these lasers. In order to achieve the best focus, what you're going to want to do is figure out where you want to place this unit. I would recommend 45 degrees up and either to the left or right of your heat press platen. And the closer you get it to your platen, the easier it is to actually make the fine adjustments. It does take some coordination and some time when you're first trying to get this thing lined up, but once you've got it in position, you never really have to touch it again, because it's it's set, or if you do want to move it because you put a different platen on, for instance, it's really quite easy to do. My recommendation is to be approximately 2.5 feet or so away from the heat press platen and about 2.5 feet up at 45 degrees. So here's a typical light stand, and what we're going to do is screw the light stand in to the mounting nut on the bottom of the laser holder, and we can secure it gently with a little pliers holding the light stand and using it on the metal piece itself. You could really actually finger tighten it, but what I don't want you to do is use the laser fixture itself as a wrench, so always tighten it using that silver nut down here. Alright, so the heat press is over here. We are setting this light stand on a table nearby. If it's a tall light stand, you could set it on the floor, but I know from experience it's going to be a little bit more difficult to actually get the final alignment on the laser. So I would start somewhere like this. This is about 45 degrees off the laser, both top and to the side. Here's your 45-degree angle. That's a good place to start. And you can loosen any of these clamp nuts to start the process, get it pointing approximately where you want it, and then we'll move on to the next step. You have to repeat this 4 times. So I'm going to loosen this end laser, slide it down a little bit and clamp it back. Then I'm going to turn on the lasers and look at what's happening on the heat press. It's easier if you put a piece of paper laying flat on your platen, because you're going to use that to align the lasers themselves as well as to achieve focus. But for right now, let's just talk about focus. What I'm going to do with this one is loosen the laser knob, not the clamp knob, and then turn it a little bit from the back side to see where it is on the laser, or on the heat press. And I can see that it's way out of focus now because the line is about that fat. So what I'm going to do is turn this red focus knob holding the back side of the laser until I get a nice thin, real crisp line. And then I'm going to put it approximately where I want it in terms of orientation. Pull it back snugly so that red focus knob is in the cavity of this laser holder, and then tighten the top screw. Don't worry about perfect placement. We're going to do that later. We made a little light adjustment so that you can see this laser line is nicely in focus and the others are way out of focus. So next I'm going to do the second laser, loosening its clamp, turning it a little bit so I can see which line I'm dealing with. Once I see which line I'm dealing with, I'm going to hold the back side of that laser, turn the focus knob one way or another until it starts to come into focus. And here you can see it's now nicely in focus. So I'm going to take that, pull it back into the cavity, roughly parallel with the first line, and tighten its knob. Now I think what I'll do is I'll just slide it a little bit on the bar closer to the other laser and tighten it down. Again, don't worry about exact placement. Third laser, same thing. Move it over Ooh, that's nice. Nice and crisp. So I'm going to pull it back up into that cavity, tighten the clamp nut for the laser. Okay, so this last laser I'm going to make vertical, and what we're going to do first of all is get it in focus like we did the other ones. So as I'm turning the focus knob one way or another, you'll see it come into focus. There it's coming, coming, coming. Ooh, nice. So we're going to leave it like that, and we're going to make it so it's approximately 90 degrees to the other lines. Pull it back up against its cavity, stop, and tighten it down. So we're almost where we want to be. Now I can move the light stand itself, and as I'm doing that you can see what's happening with that vertical line. Alright, so what I did was I took a piece of blowout paper and I marked 3 lines roughly an inch apart. First line being 2 inches from the front edge of the heat press. And then I marked a vertical line right down the center of the press. So let's say that's where I want to put my lasers because that's the way I like it. So we'll turn the lasers on and you're going to see where they are. Okay, so we've got our first 2 lines fairly well distance apart. Now I will mention this. Sometimes you cannot get these lasers closer than an inch depending upon how the laser was made. There's a lot of variation in these things, and I did everything I could to try and make them consistent as possible, but sometimes I've noticed that the laser light themselves aren't coaxial with the laser tube, and so you just do the best you can. Remember, these aren't made for measuring, they're made for reference. So if you can get close to what you want and you know how far apart they are, you're good to go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to physically move the light stand, and I want to get that vertical line aligned first, and to my eye that looks pretty good. Alright, so now in order to get these 2 lines where I want them, I'm going to physically move the light stand again and bring the first line up approximately to that first line. So you can see, hopefully, that this laser line is veering off to the lower right. And at this point, you really don't have to move the light stand or loosen any knobs, but you can just grab a hold of the focus knob because you're so close and just slightly turn it, and you can make that micro adjustment to get it almost perfect. That's the whole idea. Again, you know, this is a reference line. It's not something like the National Bureau of Standards. So actually that looks almost perfect. And again, I could always move the light stand itself a little bit. And then the third laser, I'm going to have to slide this one along the rod to get it closer to where I want it. It just takes a little fiddling around, and that's all I can say is just be patient and do the best you can, and pretty soon things will fall into place. So that is about as close as we're going to get them. And if you decide that, okay, you want to put something 2 inches down from from this edge, you've got a nice reference point, 3 inches, 4 inches. And that's it. That's all there is to it. By sliding the light stand, turning the light stand, sliding the lasers along the rod, or tilting the lasers front to back, you will be able to achieve near perfection for any of your garment decorating needs. That concludes the video on how to set up and align the laser fixture. I hope you found it useful.